Yo, yo, yo. This is Candy B Knittin. I'm Candy B, and I be knitting. And this week I'm going to show y'all my first finished objects of the new year, 2025. So, last time y'all saw this, I had finished, I believe, sleeve in the body, and I had one more sleeve in the neck to do. And this is the Simple Sweater by TinCanKnits, a circular yoke top-down construction. Comes in various gauges, various sizes. This is a worsted weight gauge. I have since washed this, and I got about 17 inches, not 17 inches, 17 stitches per 4 inches for my gauge. And this is I was aiming for the worsted weight gauge, which in the pattern is about 18 stitches. So my finished object is slightly bigger, but pretty spot on. I did not gauge swatch for this. I was looking for a really quick cast on simple pattern, and it's for my child who is 5 years old, and so I knew that the sizing was going to be pretty flexible. And so this is the size 4 to 6. Mostly knitted to pattern. I did contrasting ribbing with just a different yarn. This was that mysterious acrylic yarn I got from the thrift store, and the ribbing is the Special DK from Stylecraft. And the only big difference from the pattern, aside from the contrasting ribbing, is I did a folded neckband. And so there's an option in the pattern to either start with the ribbing or do the ribbing at the end. I opted to do the ribbing at the end, and then I picked up stitches for the neckband, knit about 4 inches, and then I cast off by picking up stitches on the inside. So my cast off edge is with picked up stitches. So I would pick up a stitch in the body of the sweater and then just do a traditional cast off. I was a bit nervous because I could feel it, because when I first started making the sweater, the neck opening was very large, and as I was doing this cast off with picking up stitches, I could feel it getting tighter and tighter and tighter. But it's still the perfect size. And that's the reason I did the folded neckband, is because it has a little bit more stretch up in this area, so that as it settles in, as my kid grows, right now it's more of like a mock neck, but as the yarn relaxes and stretches and grows and she stretches it out, it'll kind of settle into itself. I have a Stephen West sweater that I did that started with a folded neckband, and so I can tell from the way mine behaves how this one is going to behave. The other way I strayed from the pattern is I put a little tag in here. My sister got me Candy B Knittin tags for, I guess for Christmas. The last time she came at Thanksgiving and gave them to me, so I guess they're like a holiday gift. So my kid will know. I did do the short row option, but now she'll definitely know which one is the back and the front. And finished this on, I want to say I was weaving in ends on Monday, and I was weaving in ends on Tuesday because I work from home on Tuesdays, and I wanted to be able to wash it and get it soaking while I was working from home. And so I washed it I sewed in the ends, washed it on Tuesday, let it out to dry, and just wanted to make sure it was super dry, and I wanted to be able to show y'all a nice sweater. And so after I record this, it will go to the recipient. And then, just for your edification, I told y'all my child is relatively tall and thin, and so I aimed for the 4 to 6 size. She is 5 years old, and so this is a little bit oversized on her, but just in case you're knitting for young people and you want to see how this measures up, this is a Cat and Jack sweater, so like the house brand at Target, in a 5T. and this kind of fits her exactly right now. And then this sweater is a little bit bigger, and you can kind of see relatively. Actually, I'm doing a very terrible job at showing you this after I thought this would be helpful. Ah, there we go. So a couple more inches in the body. So if your kid wears a 5T, this is how big relatively the TinCanKnits sweater is in comparison to that. And so I definitely didn't want to go, sometimes with my kids, I go, and this is much longer too because she is on the tall side. And also, as I said before, I opted for the double the ribbing so she can fold over the ribbing now, but then as she gets taller, her sleeves will be a bit longer. Yeah, sometimes, when you have kids and they're growing, you want to go up a size, but this sweater is very generous in its sizing. But also you're sizing based on age, and what does that even mean? So, depends on your kid, I suppose. And I assume also as this gets washed and worn and stretches, it's going to have some give to it, and so on and so forth. All right, where do I want to put this? I think I'll put this directly behind me. That being said, when I bought this yarn, that sweater took 2 balls for the body, and then the sleeves I had about this much left, and these balls weighed about 80 grams to 100 grams. And so I have this pretty generous nugget left, and then I have these 2 balls left. And I do have a project I'm currently working on that I have not shown y'all yet that this yarn could go into, but then I also have a little bit of that style craft left over, so I'm thinking about making maybe like a coordinating hat to go with the sweater. It probably won't get done this season, so for now all this yarn is just going to go back into the bag until such a time that I decide what to do with it. But I did, when I bought this from the thrift store, I pretty much bought as many balls as I could so that I could make a pretty decent. I would have been able to make a sweater for myself out of all of this yarn, but I ended up making a child sweater and contrasting the yarn, so I have quite a bit left. So yeah, that'll stay in here for the time being. And then when I get to either a point in the project I'm working on now that I might need this yarn, or like I said, I might just cast on a quick hat just so, she doesn't really need a hat, but it's an idea of something I could do with that leftover yarn. That being said, I have 2 children, and so I finished one sweater, and so I immediately cast on the next sweater for the next kid, and I'm sticking with the simple sweater. I'm going to link to, I knit the simple sweater for myself, and I did like a pattern deep dive video about, what I thought of the pattern. And so, I'll link that below, so I won't go too much into detail about the pattern here, but it's a paid for pattern by TinCanKnits. And, I guess my only addendum to that video is I was just like, well, it's kind of just a basic circular yoke, so whatever. But I've knit a sweater for myself, knit a sweater for one kid. I knit a DK weight sweater for myself in palette and striped it. Then I got a worsted weight sweater for my 5-year-old, and now I'm working on the DK again. But this is like a cotton yarn, and so, when you mix and match yarns and sizes and gauges, you can do a lot with a simple pattern. And it's nice to kind of like, searching for that perfect sock pattern. It's nice to have like a go-to sweater pattern that I can just cast on and go with. So this is the sweater I'm going for my older child. She is 8 years old, and I'm doing the size 8 to 10 for her. She's got about a 24-inch chest circumference, and this final circumference with gauge, I have not gauge swatched for these sweaters, would fit a 30-inch circumference because she has asked that hers be oversized. And I'm quite happy that I did. I told y'all I kind of had to choose which kid gets what sweater first. And the smaller child, obviously the sweater goes by quicker, but that is like a thick, kind of worsted weight gauge. And this one I'm doing is DK weight, and I'm actually doing it in cotton. And so this will be more of like, can take my older daughter more into spring. And so my younger kid can wear this now. And if my older kid gets this later, then it's not going to be that big of a deal because she can probably wear it much further into spring, early summer. The yarn I am using is another Scrap RVA thrift store yarn, which is funny enough, I got this originally to knit something for my younger daughter, but I told you I showed them what yarns I had, and my older daughter picked this one. And so this is The Cotton by We Are Knitters. It is 100% Peruvian Pima cotton, 3.5 ounces, 100 grams, 232 yards per 100 grams. And the colorway is hand painted sprinkle. And I got this for $4 a ball at Scrap RVA, but I think this retails for about $12 to $13 a ball. And as I said, I got 3 balls of this thinking that I could make something for my younger child. I'm making this sweater for my older child, and the pattern calls for about 900 yards. And with this 3 balls of DK weight, that's about 600 and something yards of DK yarn. So I am actually, if y'all can't tell, I'm actually striping this yarn. And I am striping it with my leftover Happy Place yarn from my Kagan's quilt. On my Kagan's quilt, I'm literally just on the border, and I'm just using a solid white color for the border. And so this bag has all of my leftover contrast colored yarn from that project. And so I have all these little balls of Happy Place yarn. Happy Place yarn is 50% cotton, 50% wool, but it is machine washable, so I'm not really that concerned about mixing and matching it with this cotton yarn. I also think it's gonna like kind of give it a nice texture because the We Are Knitters cotton is kind of rough too, and so I think that's gonna, you know, complement it nicely. I also have my gauge swatch from my Kagan's quilt in here. I have the gauge swatch I've already taken apart to do. I did my seaming with this white yarn, and so I took apart my gauge swatch to do the seaming. And there's just something very satisfying about wrapping up a project, having scrap yarn left over, and transitioning to a new project and being able to like use that yarn. And then, because I mean, I like the yarn, but at the same time, the way that these leftover balls were set up, I couldn't really think of what I would use it for, and I certainly didn't want to like order more of the yarn just to use it in another project, and then it just perpetuates this constantly always having leftover yarn thing. The only thing I will say so far so good. I actually showed this to my daughter, and I said, how does this look? And she said, great, which if you have children, you know everything is, it's okay. But she said, great, and so I'm pretty excited. The only thing about this is the We Are Knitters, the cotton, the ribbing, this time I started with the ribbing instead of saving the ribbing for last, which maybe that was a mistake on my part, but it just kind of looks, it's very loose. And you go down, this is DK weight, so they call for a size 6, US 6 needle in the body and US 4 in the ribbing. And so this is DK weight on a US 4, but it just kind of looks very loose and sloppy and really stretchy. I'm going to leave it for now and just finish the whole sweater because she wants it kind of oversized and slouchy, so this might complement the style of the final sweater. But if it's way too kind of loosey-goosey or doesn't, you know, it is not quite what I want, I am very comfortable. I have ripped out cast on edges before and re-knit ribbing going the opposite direction, so that is an option. I've also heard of people like weaving elastic into their neck ribbing to give it some more structure. I could also like pick this up in, like, I know some people do a crochet chain, or maybe do like an I-cord or something like that. I don't know, but I'm gonna do the whole sweater, see how it looks. She does, like I said, she does want it kind of slouchy. It does have like all these kind of speckled colors and things going on, so it might just be the style of the sweater. But it's just interesting that I went down to size 4 needles, and it's like just has no shape to it. I'm always like nervous that my neckline is going to be too tight, and it's just very interesting. So we'll see how that fits on her, and if I have to make any adjustments. But I'm chugging along with this. That one was like just like the right project at the right time, because it literally, today is, what is today? January. Today's the, what is it? The 17th, whatever. I started that December 31st, finished it on Sunday, Monday-ish. So it took me about 2 weeks to make that sweater. This one's going to be a bit longer because it's a bigger sweater, and the cotton is a bit rougher on the hands. It doesn't have as much give as that like really buoyant acrylic yarn, and it's a worsted weight yarn, you know, so it's just going to be more stitches and a bigger project in cotton. But I'm making good progress, and this is kind of like a priority right now, because I can't give one kid a sweater and the other kid's going to be very much waiting for their sweater. That's the knitting stuff I wanted to show y'all. For the rest of the time we have together, I thought I would show y'all some of the spinning stuff I have planned, because I haven't really talked about spinning, and I talked about how I didn't spin as much as I wanted to last year, and so I feel like I have to kind of make it a priority to talk about, you know, to make it to, you know, I feel like, oh, I have to show you like a finished object, and it's like, oh, sometimes you just have to kind of talk through things so that you can keep it in the front of your mind. And so this is my first, speaking of finished objects for 2025, this is my first finished yarn. This is some sort of mystery. I'm sure it's probably merino, because that's like the most ubiquitous yarn or wool. And this was like a mill-ins, and if you can tell, I don't know if you can tell in this lighting, it has like sparkles in it, so that could be Angelina or Stellina, but some sort of inorganic matter is in this. And this is what I was spinning on my electric wheel, and I got an electric eel wheel nano last year, and this is my first stuff I've plied on, or spun on this rather. And so this is a 3-ply. If y'all can tell, there is a purple, an icy light blue, and then like a kind of a deeper blue. And the purple is what I spun first. And as I was plying it, I definitely had some areas that were underspun and kind of coming apart a little bit. But overall, for this to just be an experiment on my on a new type of wheel that I'm not used to, with a fiber that I wasn't really sure what it was, I just used whatever I had because I didn't want to, you know, use the good stuff. But I'm pretty content. This has been washed and finished, and that is a pretty even yarn. This is probably more even than what I get on my wheel. I spun this on the electric wheel, but I plied it on my Ashford traditional just because the bobbins were a bit fuller, and so I wouldn't have been able to fit all the yarn. I think the eel wheel has 2-ounce bobbins, and so I was able to get all of this on my Ashford traditional 4-ounce bobbin. It's funny, I was thinking, oh, the electric wheel will be good for plying, but the bobbins are so small, I think I'll stick to plying on my big wheel and just do singles on my electric wheel. The other thing about this is that these aren't necessarily my colors, especially with the sparkle in it, so I'm not really sure what I would do with this yarn. I might put it into like a shawl or something. It's mostly, let's see, definitely heavy DK. It's a 3-ply, short forward draw. Well, first, anything I needed to do to get the fiber to uptake onto the eel wheel, but for the most part, short forward draw. Yeah, definitely mostly a heavy DK weight. Some kind of fluffy areas after it was finished. So yeah, probably maybe into a shawl It's kind of interesting because it's giving frozen, and so I associate it comes across as a little bit juvenile, I guess I'll say. And so I would think of something for a child, but I don't necessarily think I would knit hand spun that I don't know what the fiber is for a child. So maybe I can mix it in with something else in like a shawl or something like that, or just keep it as my souvenir of the first singles I spun on my eel wheel. That being said, new year. Last year I spent all my time cleaning up the craft room, organizing things, and then I just went through and tore everything apart and dug out stuff. And so this is what I'm thinking as far as spinning for this year. This is some finished yarn. This is my Fraggle Rock plying pair from Greengoat Ranch, and this is Doozer's Dome. Y'all might have seen this on a previous episode. This is completely finished 2-ply yarn. Greengoat, she does these braids, these two side by. Oh, I'll show you in a second. But yeah, she gives you 2 braids and you spin them separately and ply them together. But I have more Fraggle Rock yarn, and so I have. These are both. The colorway is just Fraggle Rock, but definitely big red vibes in these. And this is another. Oh, this is the plying pair. So this is like 2 braids side by side. One of them is Rambouillet, one of them is Merino. Then you ply them together. And then this is one of her carding kits where she gives you some different materials with a braid. And so I am now considering, do I want to do like a big Fraggle Rock project together? Or do I want to spin these 2 together and do just like these colors that match each other? I don't know. I'm also thinking about, because I have the plying pair and I have the carding kit, I would put this on my drum carder. And so I'm like, ooh, do I do a 3-ply and do a ply of this, and then do like a long draw ply? Because I'm experimenting with that right now, doing different fiber preps and then mixing the plies together. That might be an interesting experiment. Or I have the option to kind of like mix all of these together. You know, I could really do something. I don't have to necessarily do it exactly the way she tells you to do it. The other thing I have going on right now is I actually enjoy dyeing yarn and fiber. I do all like organic, food safe dyeing. I don't do any acid dyeing. I've done Kool-Aid. I've done these 2 braids are Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, and I did Easter egg kits with these, which you can probably tell. The issue with these is that I do like bright colors, but these are just like the pastel, they're Easter egg colors. And so I'm thinking of over dyeing these and making them a bit like richer, deeper color. Maybe play with like, adding like a more like a complementary color over the top. This is the one where I did one of each tablet of the separate colors, and then when I finished that, I mixed all the colors together and got this one. Yeah, so maybe I can I'm thinking about over dyeing it, because I don't think I've tried to over dye. I've experimented with over dyeing before. I haven't been super successful. But this is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes roving, and so it's not terribly precious or expensive. And so we'll see. I also have this gloss roving from from Knit Picks. This is merino and silk top. I've never dyed with silk before. So they had like their bare yarn sale. And so I bought roving, I bought some sock blanks. Oh, I also want to dye my sock blanks, but that's not really spinning. So I want to maybe play around with this. The other thing I've got going on, I'll stick with the dyeing for now. I have, I told y'all I wanted to get away from buying like these single hand-dyed braids. But I do still have these braids left over. I actually do want to start buying some more though this year, because I am running very low. And so maybe after I finish all the braids I have left over, I'll buy some more. But this is my favorite fiber, which is Cheviot. And this is the candy colorway, if you know, you know, from Black Smoke Fiber. And so it's like this greens and oranges and things. Actually, maybe, okay, so I have this bear cheviot that I got from RH Lindsay, and I was thinking I could dye it to match this, and then I could stretch this a little bit further, and I could like do like some oranges and some greens and complement this some kind of way. That was my original thought, because this is cheviot and this is cheviot. But then my thought was, there might be a way to over dye this so that these kind of can jam together. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll keep this colorway in mind when I dye this, because this is much more my wheelhouse. Like, it's bright colors. It's a mix of, it's got green and orange. It's got like not complementary colors, but colors you wouldn't necessarily put together. And so but the colors are like a bit richer. And so I think if I, find a really dark color to overdye this, it might make it jive together. A thought. I have another braid, because she was doing like, she was kind of getting rid of old inventory, so I wasn't able to get too much of each color. And this is Starburst, and this is 100% merino. And I'm thinking that this might be the next thing I do on my electric wheel, just because it's just one braid. Just break it up and just start spinning it and fill up all my bobbins. I don't know if I'm going to go through the effort of trying to like dye yarn to go with it, because I think I have things in my stash that this would go with. So yeah, this might go right into my eel wheel basket, and when I have time to do my electric wheel, this might be the next thing on my electric wheel. I also have, last year was the year of, doing my own fiber blends. I have this bat that I made with some RH Lindsay fiber, and it's just like a taupe mixed with the red. I do want to play around with this, and this actually kind of goes with, let me see if I can reach it. If y'all remember this yarn that I said I wanted to use this year, my idea was this, if you can tell, this is like a brown with all kinds of little tweeds of color, and then this is like a taupe with some red blended in, and so my thought was like this would go with this. I also got really into long draw last year, and so I really wanted to like make some bats and do something with that, so that's definitely on the list. Then I have, similar to, where's my guy? Oh. This guy I did with Millens. I have this is the rest of the bag that this came out of, and so this is going to be kind of like, I can, card with this and maybe do some fun art bats with, and it's all kinds of bits of, I think there's some bamboo in here, there's some silk in here, and just something I can put in my basket of fun and just play around with when I have time. The last but certainly not least, I was saying before when I was doing my big hand spun sweater that I'm kind of running out of yarn that kind of goes together, and hence why I want to dye some of that cheviot and stuff. I do have these two braids from Kim Dye's Yarn, and this is actually 100% superwash, and I did snag two braids of these. It's so funny, last week I was just like, if I hand spun a sweater for myself, I would get about 500 grams, or I'd get a pound. No, I wouldn't. I would go and be like, let me get like 2-3 braids, and then I can make it work, So I got these two braids, 100 grams each, or not 100 grams, 4 ounces. Yeah, 100 grams, 4 ounces, 100 grams. This is her, it's OOAK, which I recently learned stands for one of a kind. And so these were at Oh goodness, not at Maryland Sheep and Wool. Where did I go? Not at Frederick Fiber Fest. I forget the festival I went to, but she had these two braids hanging up, and I bought them. And going back to the sale, I have these two. This is Knit Pick Stroll Roving. So this is 100% merino roving, and this has actually nylon mixed in it. So that would be, I don't think I've ever spun anything knowingly that had nylon content. So this might be interesting. I don't know. I didn't even read the nylon part. I just buy things. Yeah, so this is, yeah, superwash. I thought this was just 100% superwash, but it does have nylon top in it. I wonder if this, I guess because it's Knit Pick Stroll or Stroll Roving, that because there's Knit Pick Stroll yarn, people do use that as socks. So I wonder if I could spin this for socks, but then, you know, people always say don't use merino for socks. So whatever. Anyway, I was thinking that I would dye this to go with this, but now that I read that this has nylon in it, I don't know if this would be compatible. But it's never stopped me before from mixing and matching things, but just something to think about that I didn't even consider, which is why I have this channel, I guess, because then it makes me read things. That's all I wanted to show y'all. What are you working on this year? Are you still in the mode of getting ready for the year? Have you set all your goals? Let me know. Once again, I'm Candy B. I be knitting, I be spinning. Apparently, I be having issues with reading comprehension. You can comment below to talk to me. You can send me an email, candybknittin@gmail.com. Definitely hit me up on the Instagram @Rulude if you want to chat over there and see all my works in progress and finished object photos. Or you can buy me a coffee on the Ko-fi. Like, subscribe, share this video with a friend, share this video with an enemy. Until next time, peace.